Hi QA folks, today let's talk about realistic test strategy, some realistic example. So what is test strategy? Test strategy overall it's sometimes it's document, sometimes it's just can be a page on Wiki or your Confluence, your knowledge base, but anyway, some documented approach on how you are going to test, to perform testing for a specific project or product. So what should it contain? First of all, you should determine scope of testing and schedule. Think what kind of testing you will and will not be conducting. For example, functional performance, security, accessibility, compatibility, and other types of testing, and when in the project lifecycle. For example, functional, it's basically regular testing when you will be testing your sprint tasks. It's being performed daily. Compatibility, testing on different platforms, devices, resolutions, whatever. It can be performed every 2 weeks. Accessibility, the same, ADA compliance, ARIA labels on inputs, elements, alt text for images, and so on. Also can be performed every 2 weeks. Security and performance can be done once a month, for example. Now, the first hint is for you is during sprint planning meetings, don't be afraid to ask questions and clarifications, write acceptance criteria and user stories to help the team to clarify requirements and to understand what exactly to implement and how. Next, test not only on UI level but also via API, on database level, in logs, request all accesses to needed network resources in advance. Think where you will store and write, store and execute test scenarios. For example, in Jira itself or in TestRail, TestLink, Zephyr, HPQC or whatever. There are a lot of different systems, test management systems to do it. Also in terms of test environments, you should have at least 3 of them, one for developers, so they can do whatever they want with it, even redeploy every hour. It can be unstable just for their needs. QA usually don't do anything in there and don't care about its state. And besides dev, QA environment, your main environment when you will be testing your features. And UAT environment, it's more stable and close as possible by configuration to production environment where the user acceptance testing, the final testing will be performed. So this one should be the most stable one for acceptance testing needs. But again, I would advise you to have at least 3, minimum 3. Next, find out who will deploy builds to test environments and when, how often, daily, weekly, whenever tasks are ready or when. And whenever deployment happens, ask to send release notes email with a list of tickets included in the build. So what exactly is going to be deployed in this particular deployment. So everyone will know it, what is being merged, what is being deployed, and when it's going to be deployed and ready for testing. Also, in terms of different test suites, I would recommend you to have at least 2, smoke test and full regression, regardless if automated or manual. So run smoke test after each deployment, regardless, again, if it's automated or manual, and run regression tests at the end of each week. It usually takes a lot of time. This is the largest amount of work to be done here with regression testing. So it's not feasible to do it daily, but and you can also do it once every 2 weeks at the end of each sprint. But the sooner you will find regression issues, the better. So I would advise you to perform it at least once at the end of each week, especially if it's manual. If it's automated, you can run it daily, whatever. Next, in your sprint tasks, effort estimations during sprint planning, do not forget to include additional time that you are going to need for regression testing at the end of each week. Usually it's few days, maybe even the whole week, depending on your product and the amount of tests in your test suites. Usually people do not include that, and then they're wondering why they don't have enough time for that, for this activity. Next, think how defects will be reported and tracked, what dashboards needs to be created in Jira or any other task management system. For example, most likely you will need to have some kind of dashboards with filters of reports, open bugs versus closed bugs, how many are still opened, so closing rate, and with blockers versus high, medium, and low priorities, how many of each priority you have still open. Next, think what columns do you need on your Agile sprint board if you are going to use Agile Scrum approach, if you are going to use Kanban. You can also use different column names, but generally speaking, I would advise you to have these kind of columns like to do, which is not implemented yet in development, ready for deployment. Whenever the code is merged to release branch, it's ready for deployment. Then why do I have this separately deployed to QA? Because sometimes developers just saying committing their code, it's not even merged to release branch or whatever. It's not even, it cannot be even deployed to test environments, but they usually will put it to ready for QA, but it's not deployed anywhere. You cannot really test it. So for the visibility purposes, I would advise you to have these separate columns. So deployed for QA, basically it means it's deployed and ready for testing. In QA, that's the column that when you step in. Next, waiting for demo. If you are going to demo your user stories, tasks, features to product owner, then deploy to production and only then closed, because the task can be closed only after it's been deployed to production in reality. Otherwise, why would you and test it as well in production that it's been delivered there? Otherwise, it's useless. Next, scheduler schedule regular bug triage meetings to review bugs and their priorities with product owner, developers, and yourself. It might be every day or every other day, for example. But anyway, so to keep an eye on all the open bugs, how many of them still open, when they're going to be fixed, and so on. So everyone in the team will be on the same page in terms of bug fixes and when to expect those. Next, how are you going to report testing progress? Executed versus overall tests. Are you going to report progress daily or weekly? Talk to project manager, to product owner when they want to see this information. And in most cases, you will have this information somewhere on Jira board, along with the open bugs status. Next, what tools will you use for test automation? Decide what tools you are going to use for test automation and which CI/CD server you are going to set up and use to trigger your tests and store test results. Besides that results will be stored in test management system when you execute your tests. It also will be handy if your auto test will have some HTML report that also will be stored as an artifact after each run on CI/CD. Request DevOps to prepare a Jenkins instance for you so you can use it. Usually it's DevOps who manage virtual machine or network resources. So think how you are going to run your tests remotely and store results, your auto tests. Next, if you're going to run UI tests on CI/CD, you will need some kind of cloud browser provider service to be able to run your tests remotely, not locally on your machine. For example, you can use AWS, BrowserStack, Sauce Labs, and many others. There are really a bunch of them. Or you can also use your own virtual machines in your own network, talk to DevOps if they can provide such resources to virtual machines. But in this case, you need to set up and maintain everything by yourself, like updating browsers, keep virtual machines up and running, and so on. Next. Run your auto tests daily if you have any. If not, if you at the beginning of your project of starting testing or joining new team and everything is being created from scratch, if you don't have any, start automating your tests and run daily to see how stable they are. It's really useful practice because sometimes you will have flaky tests, unstable test environment, and so on. And your test should be stable, reliable, and trusted. Because if you don't trust your test results, nobody from developers will trust whatever you are reporting. And I guess the last point is to determine roles and responsibilities. So QA team usually reports issues, create bugs, put them into backlog, sprint backlog or common backlog outside of the sprint. Then product owner should review them and decide what to fix, if he wants it to be fixed right away or not, if he or she agrees with the priority and so on. But generally speaking, as I'm saying, we QA just doing our assessment and reporting the current state of the product. We do not force developers to fix anything. It's product owner's job because he's responsible for the product. He has the power to tell developers what to fix, what to take into work, and when to do it. Yeah, and then as I said, from PO box go to devs for fixes. So this is my example of specific items, action items to have in your test strategy. It should give you overall idea what it is and what questions to ask, what things to think in advance of, and so on. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.